intuitive reader for self-empowerment and development, Samantha brings you Hindsight, Insight, Foresight in a weekly 1-hour show. Reflecting on the past, enhancing the present, for a spiritual future, bringing you topics and various guests offering discussion and pathways to empower and enhance your being. Samantha will be staying in SOC Radio Chat for 30 minutes after the show. So join us on site at spiritualistonline.com for this eye-opening and inspiring show each week. Welcome to Hindsight, Insight, Foresight with Samantha Moir. Enjoy as we inspire the mind, body and spirit from life's past, present and into your bright future.
Your life.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to SOC Radio. My name's Sam. I'm the host for today, and thanks for tuning in to listen to Hindsight, Hindsight, Insight, and Foresight with Samantha. I am so excited because I've just been working on some content for this show, actually, and it's kind of something that I want to put out there that everyone can listen to and kind of contribute with. Because if you weren't aware, I'm actually a life coach with clients, and I specialize in working with women. So a lot of these kind of topics lead into the spirituality realm of where I basically come from with my life coaching. So I want to just hook right in straight away and be able to get this cranking, because I've got a fair bit of stuff here to talk about. I might just give a quick shout out that if you are listening and you want to contribute or ask any questions or, want to join in on the conversation, please head over to spiritualistonline.com and you'll be able to head into the SOC Radio chat room. So that would be awesome if you can do that. So let's get started. My topic for today that I want to talk about is how quick are you to react from a negative context when your buttons get pushed or when you feel like you have somebody that kind of hits a nerve. I mean, I think we've all been there where we've had somebody go, they give us some criticism or some feedback, or we feel like they're kind of saying something out of turn, or they say something that really, just doesn't sit well. And our instant need is to justify or to, react in some kind of way to make ourselves feel better, or to pretty much just defend our choices or our decisions. And so I ask the question, I mean, I have 100 examples of this and I'll be able to go through them a little bit later on, but it's quite interesting from people from a hindsight point of view, is because we're really, really, really good to be able to kind of pull our decisions apart later, or we're able to see how somebody else has been able to react, or how somebody has acted poorly, or we've seen somebody just be baited into acting like that by somebody else's reaction. So as a third person, or even from a hindsight point of view, we can kind of sit there and go, they fed right into the hands of that other person, and they, reacted just as somebody wanted them to, and that was the area that they were going with, and that can really, really suck, because when we have somebody push our buttons, we're so quickly ready to defend ourselves that we have real trouble being able to step back from that kind of perspective and be able to see exactly how our choices are about to play out, about whether we go down one road or whether we take the other option. I think spirituality really helps with that, and kind of having that centered base to be able to kind of go forward and having, that little bit of a 5-minute timeout, because instead of being reactive, we can kind of see the bigger picture. Empathy and all those different things come into play, but we'll talk about that a little bit later on in the show. I kind of want to talk about at the moment, why are we doing this? What are the major catalyst points that trigger within us to react so quickly or so negatively or just aggressively or in any, why do we do this? And I've kind of compiled a list this afternoon about some of the main key reasons why we go ahead and do this. One of them is to justify ourselves, justify our actions, justify our thoughts, justify our decisions. We're just kind of making sure that people understand us in why we've done and why we're doing certain things at that time, and kind of seeking and ultimately seeking out that approval from the other person, that they will understand why we have done and been doing something for that amount of time, which really, in hindsight, as I'm saying this, I'm sure as you're listening can think as a third person on this topic, well, you don't need to worry about what anyone else is thinking. You don't need anybody else's approval. Or how many times have we said to one another, who cares what anybody else thinks? You just do what you've got to do. But while you're in that moment and you're being triggered or baited into a reaction, or merely even the person on the opposite side isn't trying to do that, but it is triggering you into that response, it's about really having that clarity and that understanding of yourself and how you're about to initiate or engage in that next part of that conversation. And what you do and what you say has a massive snowball effect that if it is something that we actively work on, we can completely bypass that negativity and just be able to spare ourselves 24 hours, 48 hours, 1 week, 1 month, 1 year, 10 years of suffering at the hands of a comment or an action or somebody else's opinion, and it won't have that amount of effect on us. So we can hear them objectively without feeling like we're going into that negative cycle of having to react. So another one of the reasons that we do this is just for the outward acknowledgement, the acknowledgement of what we are doing, or the acknowledgement of why we've made certain choices, or just for people to acknowledge that, it wasn't, that wasn't my first choice, or this wasn't the reason, this is why I did it, because just that level of acknowledgement of your part and where you're at with all of that. Sometimes we come from anger, that we feel like it's not somebody's place or somebody's choice or somebody else's business. We get really angry and defensive and going, that's not considerate, or that's not kind, or, how dare you, or that's rude, and we come from a place of anger and start to yell and scream or roll our eyes or show off some real negative, horrible. I mean, I've been in situations like that myself where I've instantly reacted or finger pointed or folded my arms or rolled my eyes or frowned or tutted or yelled louder to be heard clearer. And these are all reactions that aren't healthy and they're not good for you, and they are definitely not something that you want to be instilling in children, instilling in your already, founded relationships. You don't want to be setting the tone that this is how you go about things in your life. Another reason that we can do this is coming from a place of pain or hurt, feeling like just hurt from somebody saying something that is maybe so close to you. Maybe you have a project that you're working on and you've put everything into it and you're really emotionally invested in it, and somebody says something and your whole world comes shattering down because you are so invested in this project that anyone who criticizes it makes you feel like all of that was worth nothing, or it makes you feel hurt that somebody could be so abrupt or rude or honest. And it can be quite hurtful because you have a certain expectation and they don't meet it, and you feel like they've hurt you or they've upset you. I mean, we can come from places of lack of frustration. Lack of control and frustration. Being frustrated is the fact that things aren't going your way or things aren't or, you know, their reactions aren't the way that you had thought that they would be, and you feel frustrated, you get annoyed, you get cranky, you want to shake them and be like, no, look at it again, or try it again, or react the way that I need you to react. So we become frustrated that it hasn't gone to that kind of expectation of what we had already kind of preconceived in our head of how things would go. And we also come from that place of lack of control, you know, because it's so close to us, from that pain or that justification or that anger, that we then feel like, well, maybe a scenario was outside of your control, and it really highlights something that maybe you're feeling on the inside that you haven't been able to control, and things have happened and it's not been great, and you feel that was your responsibility, or that was something that you really needed to push forward with and you didn't have control over it. And that really sucks as well, because then it becomes an outward display with our reactions and our negativity about showing how we do react when things like that happen. And there are so many, just as a side note, there are so many things that happen in this world that are outside of our control. But when we get frustrated, it means that we're actually stunted in that time frame. We're actually stunted in where we're at with that. So, I mean, and that really sucks too, because there's so much that we could be embracing and being able to work with when things are outside of our control, that it can actually be something that is quite exciting. But then, you know, when it's so close, most of the time we can't really see it. So I kind of wanted to go in and give you a few examples about, you know, what this really looks like and how we can go forward with this. So here's my example. Say you're in a meeting or you're in a group of new people, and you have a business venture that you're so super proud of and you want to share with the world, and you're going into this group of people to kind of ask their professional opinions because they themselves maybe also have a business or a project, or they're close to you, they could even be friends. But they come back and they are giving you some criticism about, here's an example, they are all, you know, quite influential in the media, or just kind of, here's the example. You have a business, but you don't have a fully functioning website yet. And they work their entire programs or lifestyles from a website. So they say to you, it's great, but, you know, it would have been better if you have a website. Is that something you've considered? Why don't you have it? Now, the first thing that happens in a situation like that is we go into a full-scale attack. And this is kind of, there's a sequence of 1, 2, and 3 things, and it kind of depends where, but we all go through these either in this consecutive order or a roundabout way. So we go into a full-scale attack. We start justifying ourselves. We start talking about, well, this is, you know, it's not as important to me, or it is something that's on the list but I haven't done it yet, or, you know, I haven't had the time, or I don't know much about it, or I don't have enough support. Well, you know, we haven't got the time to do the things that we want, or our commitments aren't allowing us to do the things that we want to do. And we start to just instantly go on not even on the attack. I would say that was more justifying our behaviours, or why things haven't met the expectations that we feel they have set for us. We feel the need to go over the top of that and start really justifying where we're at with that, which can really suck and can be really, really limiting to the information that they're giving us, because that could be handled completely different. I will come back to that when we come back from a break about how we can change that and why we do that. But I mean, that's when you hear me use an example like that, for somebody who's not really invested in it, you'd be like, I don't know why you got so annoyed about that. Or I don't know why you felt the need to tell them. They were asking you a question. But when you feel triggered or you start reacting, that can be the hardest point in it, is to really be able to see where we're at with that. So that's kind of the justification side of things that we were talking about, why we're doing this and how that kind of comes about. But then we also, if you don't go into that first, we then go into another level where we start to criticize them. We start to question their very skill or knowledge as to why we are why do they think that they are so qualified in order to be giving that kind of criticism or that kind of concern. Or we even look at them and start questioning their own success with using this as a business example, or their own website. Well, I don't like how they've got that set up, or I think that could be done differently, or I don't think that's used functionally, or I don't really think that's a great idea. Anyway, I wasn't a fan of this. Or, we get angry at their abrupt honesty, or who are these people to me anyway? I don't even know them that well. How dare they criticize like that? How dare they say something like that? But all in all, that is just us going down the road of defensiveness. So we've had justifying and we've had that level of defensiveness. Now, look, that really sucks as well, because that's bringing out the most negative part of us, to start to play ourselves off the other person and looking at them and their accomplishments or their success or even their stature within their own businesses or wherever, and questioning how important they actually are or how good at something they actually are. And that's not something I, on a personal level, or you should really want to be bringing to yourself, because you are actively trying to find negative points or criticizing someone else's in a means to defend our positioning or where we are at. When really we're all on different journeys, we're all on different experiences, we all have different ventures or projects or feelings or passions that don't align with everybody, and they are completely different. So it's really quite interesting when our first or second or even third response is to start really nitpicking and pulling apart what these other people are doing. So they're the top two that I see kind of happen more frequently. And then the third one is then we start to retreat. So we start to feel intimidated. We start to pull back from conversations. We start to feel shy. We don't want to engage in that conversation. We can't even hear other people talking because we're feeling so embarrassed or shameful or guilty, or not feeling as equal in that situation because somebody has highlighted an area that we feel that we need to work on. And that really sucks too, because we are then negating ourselves from having honest growth and honest feedback for what we can do on ourselves personally, professionally, within our relationships, and in our spiritual growth to be able to move forward. We can have our own, self hindsight about things that we need to grow on. But in the present moment, instead of having to look back on this situation now in 10 years' time, we actually have had someone who's been willing to give us the advice at the time. Now, there are examples about, which I will go into further or shortly, about what's respectful in how they deliver their message. But for right now, I kind of want to concentrate on our reactions and why we're doing them and where we go when these things happen. So we start to devalue ourselves. We start to retreat. We start to go, look, I don't feel like I'm good enough at that, or they're better, or I should listen to what they're saying, but now I feel like I'm an idiot, or I don't feel like it's good enough, or all that hard work that I've put in has been for nothing because no one likes it. And we start to over-criticize our own work, our own worth, our own self-esteem, our confidence, our passion, our drive. We start looking at everything like it's not good enough, and how could we possibly get there when all these other people are doing so well and you don't. It's like meeting. I recently went to a business seminar, and I was meeting an entire team of people that have been doing a business for 7 years, and it's amazing. It's on my Facebook page and it's on my business page, but I'll share the links with you shortly. But I felt extremely intimidated by their level of success. Now, that was me comparing where I was now to where they are. They've got 7 years on me in what they're doing, but I felt extremely intimidated and almost, I wouldn't say with me personally that I would go the same as not worthy or feeling like that, but I did feel that initial intimidation by their level of success and not meeting that expectation that they were, as opposed to seeing them as another counterpart that I could aim to be like or use as an idol or a success story or something that fuels me to show me the possibilities. I felt okay by the end once I'd worked that out in my head, but to be perfectly honest, I did feel quite shaken in that position. And the whole idea of the seminar was to be able to give us information and for them to share their story on how they had got to their level of success. And I still had felt that level of intimidation. But that's a whole nother thing. But if you get my gist here about where that was coming from. So the other, feelings that we feel is upset or annoyed with ourselves about that level of feeling like a failure, like it wasn't good enough, and we'd been putting blood, sweat and tears into this venture, and because they've highlighted one area that's not done, we then feel guilty, or we feel like it's already a button, it's already something that I'm, getting angry at myself for not achieving or doing, that all of a sudden we're retreating into ourselves and into our thoughts. And this is a place of hurt. This is a place of feeling torn between what we're doing and what we think we're capable of, and kind of not being able to bridge that gap of where we want to be and where we are now, and feeling that abyss and that gap in between, and feeling like we are never going to reach the other side. So it really plays into our own inner thoughts and our own inner turmoil that we're facing on our own, which really, really sucks, because life is all that journey between that gap in between of being who we are, who we were, and who we want to be. And that is and has been all gaps. And where you were 10 years ago to where you are now, there was a gap then, but you still made it from that point to that point. And it kind of comes down to you on whether or not you use that as a positive thing or you don't. So to kind of, and I'm trying to stay on track because it does kind of taper off into different areas, but this is where the reaction and how we can use every opportunity as a positive result. Whether it starts off from negativity or not, it does and can be a positive outcome at the end. So I kind of want to put the question out there to you. Has this ever happened to you? Has this been something that you faced recently in the last couple of days, in the last couple of hours, in the last week? Has there been a situation that's made you go kind of outside of your own normal actions because you feel like you've been questioned or pushed on an area that you hold so dear to your heart? If you do, and if you are listening and that has been something, I would love to hear your thoughts. If you can go over to spiritualistonline.com and just sign into the SOC Radio chat room, I would love to hear it, because I'm online there now, and I want to hear what your thoughts and what your contribution is to this conversation, because it's quite a huge topic, but it really does boil down to kind of a few small changes, which I'm going to talk about in the second half of the show. But I also want to ask you, have you been there as the third party? Have you seen an interaction happen where somebody else has been given instruction or direction or feedback or criticism that you have seen as the third party that's actually been true and constructive and could be something that could really help them step into a new realm of themselves and a new understanding, and the person on the receiving end has acted in either an inappropriate way or completely over the top, pardon me, from where they should have. And I bet as the third party you find it disappointing that they didn't listen, or they didn't hear the person in what they were saying, or they had taken the conversation completely out of context from how the person was delivering it to them. Have you seen that? Can you remember a time where you went, wow, that is not how they meant it. That is not the way that it came across. That is not the way that they intended for you to have it. Or actually, I agree, and that would be a great thing, but I was too intimidated or I was too afraid because of this reaction as to why I wasn't the one to be able to deliver it to you. Have you seen that? So I put the question out there. So please jump over to spiritualistonline.com and enter into the SOC radio chat room, and please enter your thoughts in there, because that is just incredible when we see it from that hindsight point of view in how we watch others react, but we don't really see the way that we're doing it within those time frames. And I think we all have been there. I think we all find it hard to acknowledge our own ownership or at that moment in time. And that really just comes from a place of insecurity and guilt and self-expectation, or expectations that we have or we feel other people have set for us. And we feel like we're either letting ourselves down or we're not. I mean, because again, the example, I have been to a entrepreneur business summit yesterday. I think everyone measures their own success against somebody else's. And like I was saying, I was feeling intimidated. However, there was a 7-year difference between my startup phase and theirs. There was 7 years and a team of people and growth and learning. However, I had questioned myself as to whether or not I was worthy enough to be in their presence or be around them or be able to speak about business, because they had reached such a different level of it. So it's quite interesting to see how we go about that, because they had never put those expectations on me. They hadn't asked the question, but that was something that was self-imposed, and self-imposed guilt that I wasn't reaching my own targets and goals that I had set out for myself for the next 10 years, and I hadn't instantly reached them. So, and that's also self-imposed insecurity of feeling like, in order for me to get to where you are, I'm probably going to have to, step up my game, and I'm not feeling like I'm maybe putting 100% into it, or, and then I go down that justification road of where I'm going. You see how that kind of all plays in? It's crazy. So just before we go to break, I kind of want to put one more question out to you, and as if you were to think of a person that you kind of idolize or look up to, what are the things that you look up to them about and character? Because I want to ask you these questions. Are they overly emotional people? These people that you see, say, from a business point of view, or, even if it's like a spiritual leader or somebody who runs a group or a foundation, or somebody that you've seen on podcasts or radio shows, and when you look at them, are they overly emotional? Are they quick to be emotive? Do they come from, when they're pushed on a certain topic, from a direct negative emotional response to begin with? Are they easily angered? Do they fly off the handle quickly? Do they yell and scream and carry on? Is that something that they do? And do they have that level of kind of defensiveness and hot-headedness about them? Do they shun you? Do they shun anybody? Do they openly ask? Or actually in the opposite of that, do they shut down any type of feedback or criticism? Or is it that something that they welcome? Do they tell you that they don't need any feedback, or they think that they're perfect, or they think that they have done all the growing that they need to do? And I think probably not in that scenario. Definitely not in that scenario. I think they have some completely different personality traits. I mean, the Oprah Winfreys of the world, the Richard Bransons of the world, the Dalai Lamas of the world. You don't see the Dalai Lama jumping up and down and getting angry when somebody doesn't understand him, or you don't see him getting overly emotional or justifying his plight to the world because somebody, a reporter, a journalist, a person that he meets, do that. So when you think about those people that you idolize or you look up to, are they displaying that overly emotional, easily angered level of defensiveness, or do they shut down any communication or initiation of feedback and criticism? And I would guess, and I would be able to vouch for the people that I look to, the people that I think are amazing leaders are not those types of people. And I think we're going to cut to a break in a moment, and I'm going to come back and talk about those traits that those people have and those strong, influential leaders do have, and the ones that we listen to and what we do. So if you haven't gone across to spiritualistonline.com, please head over there shortly, and you can join in the second half of the radio show. Please head over to the SOC Radio Facebook page, leave a like, a comment, let me know that you're listening, and you can also find me at my Facebook page, which is facebook.com/Coach Samantha Moir, and you'll be able to like that page and let me know your afterthoughts, because I absolutely welcome criticism and feedback. So we'll cut to a break, and I will come back and let you know how we can change that. Great, thanks guys.
Samantha will be right back with more Hindsight, Insight and Foresight just for you after these messages from our sponsors. So sit tight and enjoy. SOC Radio aims to provide a wide range of hosts, shows, views and opinions while endeavouring to maintain our three vital principles of openness, honesty and integrity, covering all aspects of spiritualism, mediumship, healing, personal and spiritual development for all faiths, religions and walks of life as a way of life. As part of our spiritualistonline.com, Spiritualist Online Network and Lyceum, SOC Radio brings you the latest and honest news, views and names in the spiritual field. Check us out and tune in to SOC Radio on spiritualistonline.com. Join in the SOC Radio chat room on the website. Join us on SOC Radio. Host your own online radio show. We welcome inquiries and ideas for your own show live right here on SOC Radio. Share your knowledge, thoughts and abilities. Bring your ideas to life with us here on SOC Radio and spiritualistonline.com. Or join any of our shows as a special guest, speaker or presenter. Check out the liveliest spiritual chat show, the Spiritualist Open Circle Panel Forum, a monthly discussion show, or the Circle of Mediums, a weekly show sharing spirit messages and teaching all aspects of mediumship and psychic abilities. Or join our Christina on the monthly astrology show. Contact us now at socradioshows@gmail.com. Spiritualist Open Circle Forum Panel Show, the liveliest spiritual chat show online. The Spiritualist Open Circle Panel Forum Chat Show with hosts, guest speakers and panellists discussing and challenging all areas of spiritual thought, ability, knowledge and more. Ever wanted to voice your thoughts and help set standards within the field? Confront those who bring the work down, or simply share your ideas and help bring spirit's work into the light of day and give spiritualism the recognition of all as a true faith and way of life? Then this is the show for you. Every last Friday of the month, 10 p.m. UK time. Join the team. Premium membership on spiritualistonline.com. Join our teaching lyceum, classes and courses for certificate and diploma levels. It's an option, not an obligation. Still only £30 per year for unlimited seminars, guest sessions, members' moments, voice members included on radio chats and TV shows, full certificate courses and qualifications, members' promotions of sites, books and services, discounts on SOC services, one-on-one teaching, private classes, members-only Facebook. Upgrade your membership today. Joint family group options. See spiritualistonline.com. Join us on SOC Radio. Host your own online radio show. We welcome inquiries and ideas for your own show live right here on SOC Radio. Share your knowledge, thoughts and abilities. Bring your ideas to life here with us on SOC Radio and spiritualistonline.com. Or join any of our shows as a special guest, speaker or presenter. Check out the liveliest spiritual chat show, the Spiritualist Open Circle Panel Forum, a monthly discussion show, or the Circle of Mediums, a weekly show sharing spirit messages and teaching all aspects of mediumship and psychic abilities. Or join our Christina on the monthly astrology show. Contact us now at socradioshows@gmail.com or facebook.com/socradio. Advertise with SOC Radio. 10, 15, 20 or 30-second jingles, adverts or promotions, all going out live on SOC Radio. Promote your services, churches, groups or events at the best rates online. Work with us on shows or promotion and you could get your jingles absolutely free. For this and more, contact Julie at socradioshows@gmail.com. The Circle of Mediums radio show. 6 mediums, healers, psychics, tarot, astrologers, spiritual workers every week, sharing spirit messages, development techniques, guidance and much more. Live in the SOC Radio chat room on spiritualistonline.com or simply listen in at tunein.com. Search SOC Radio. Would you like to contribute readings, thoughts, teachings and time to this 2-hour show? Get in touch at socradioshows@gmail.com. Welcome back. Are you ready to be inspired? Looking through from your past to the future with insights from Samantha Moir. Join us now as we delve into the possibilities for your future.
You're live.
Welcome back, everyone. I am super excited to do the second half of the show. I've got a fair bit that I want to talk to you about going forward. And just as a brief recap of what we were talking about, I was discussing how we and how many of us are quick to react and how that can kind of be a problem and why we're doing that. And some of the examples on things like justifying, being hurt, being defensive, and kind of, all the different areas of our lives that we, and all the different people that we, and opportunities that we have decreased in our lives just due to not being able to kind of take a step back. And I put the question out there at the break, which was, do you think the people that you idolize are overly emotional, quick-tempered, or hot-headed or defensive and actively tell you or verbalize or even with their body language shut down the initiation of feedback? And as I was saying, probably not. And I'm sure you've thought about it as well, but they probably haven't. They probably don't. Some of the characteristics, which is what I wanted to lead back into, of people that you look up to and leaders, politicians, spiritual figures, even people on TV, on interviews or celebrities, whoever you want to look at, and people that are in that public eye or are making a difference, whether that's foundations or charities or whoever, some of the characteristics that they display that make us stop and listen and hear their words as power is some of the following. They're controlled. They're controlled in their demeanor. They're controlled in their body language. And that's a self-control. That's something that they have chosen to be. That is something that they have actively worked on to And I mean, they have people that teach them things like that, but they are controlled, because I'm sure with all the clickbait on news feeds and all the different foundations or different charities, or even people that are creating a movement that's something that is considered as taboo, or something that needs, you know, the light shone on it for equality, those people can't get the message across if they're displaying in things of like anger and defensiveness and screaming while they're on TV. And you watch some journalists, how they work with even celebrities. They will say things to trigger an emotional response from that person. And you always know somebody who has got high levels of respect within those dynamics when they simply, in their controlled and imposed self-control, step back and say, unfortunately, I won't be speaking about that today. You know, with that level of respect, that you can't push it any further. But if they were to get angry or hysterical, then people would know that they've lost control. And the last thing that you want people to know is that you have lost all self-control in your emotions, which will be my next point about what that actually displays outwardly when we are really quick to react and being negative. Some of the other characteristics and traits about being able to monitor and control our reactions is these people are honest and they are tactful. So they are aware of how other people think, they are aware of how other people feel, but they still tactfully and kindly will be able to give their opinion or their constructive feedback without having to go and personally attack somebody. They will give the information that will benefit them and make it in a way that is not aggressive but is still assertive. They're also, you know, respectful of other people's surroundings and other people, you know, and other people being in the situation and to their environment as a whole. They're also great listeners, kind, and understanding. So they understand that something like that is hard for another person to receive within that dynamic or within those, you know, social environments, and can listen to the points of view of others without having to feel the need. And it is such an endearing thing to watch when somebody can be criticized, whether it constructively or not, and be able to turn it around either to a positive or still be grateful that the person felt secure enough to even be able to give their opinion. Whether it was to create negativity or a reaction, they are still able to use that experience and still be respectful of the people around them and still give that person the platform to speak what they want to say, no matter how it's being delivered, and still give them that respect of being a good listener and listening to what they want to talk about. They're also very confident and very self-aware. So these people don't really take the personal attacks personally because they know who they are and they are confident within themselves. So this is where I'm going to lead to in a moment is about the things that we need to do in order to have that kind of self-awareness and that confidence, because when you know who you are and know what you're about, and when you can make peace with those self-expectations or the growth and the process and the journey and that worthiness in what you're doing or who you're around or what your actions have been, you won't be triggered into those emotional and negatively emotional responses. It is so much easier to lash out and rip apart somebody else's credibility than it is to actually sit back and go, hey, that actually could help me. And that is something that is powerful and more powerful in that interaction. And I will explain this as well about what that actually creates for you as a person and what that ripple effect is for you as well. So there are going to be many types of triggers, as I suppose you have got many examples of how this can come about. I mean, that's people, that's your workplace, your children, your friends, just going out in the general public as a whole. I mean, I've had friends that have had children with dummies in their mouth and had strangers come up to them and feel the need to either pull it out of their child's mouth or give them their opinions on what they feel regarding their child having a dummy. I don't have experiences like that with strangers, but I feel like I hold my space well and I hold my confidence well, that I don't really allow my space to be invaded by people in that public zone to feel the need to openly come over and give me a negative opinion that is self-serving to the other person, because it wouldn't change my mind, because I know what I would do, I know what I have chosen and why I have chosen it. So I don't feel the need to open my space up to other people to come in and give me an example or give me their opinion or tell me what I should be doing. I don't really feel I give that off in my space. So I don't really have those issues, but it does happen. And if you feel like you're showing that level of indecisiveness, you probably have experienced more of people randomly coming up to you and telling you what you should do. And that is something that needs to be worked on within yourself, in that level of decisiveness and holding your space and building that confidence to stop people from coming forward and just openly and self-servingly justifying their opinions and giving them to you. So, I mean, is that a common theme? Have I just highlighted to you something that seems to happen to you all the time? Is that something that you didn't realize doesn't happen to everybody, or is happening to you all the time and you couldn't understand why that was happening? And that's kind of a highlight and my constructive criticism to you, that if you feel like you're giving off that air and grace of indecisiveness, then maybe that level of decision and confidence and self-awareness needs to be at least going out into the general public, if that's something that is happening to you. I want to talk about what we can control as people, you know, as general, you know, people in society, and just in our everyday lives, in our relationships, in our work, what we do control, and actually more specifically what the other people control in that dynamic. Like, if you're ready to hear what the other people control within that dynamic, so that you have the heads up about where their power is and what they do, I'm going to give you the down low about that. They control themselves. They control their actions. They control their feelings, and they control their own reactions. There is not a single sentence or statement there that allows any type of thinking that they have any power or control over you and what you do. So even if they spark or trigger that level of anger and frustration or justification or defensiveness, you are actually in the center of that. You are actually the popular theme within any situation is you. And this is what you control. You control yourself. You control your actions. You control your feelings, and you control how you react and how you use those feelings. The other person has no control over how you handle that either. And that can be confronting sometimes, because we can, and everybody has the ability to flick back into that blamer / victim mentality in what we do. But I'm just looking at the time, and I kind of want to get to my point here about how we can change that and what we can do. So I've written down, what this means for you, and what this and what you're creating within your relationships and work dynamics when you quickly and negatively react. That you are negating from the responsibility of yourself. You are handing the power that somebody else can play you like a puppet with your feelings and emotions, because you are pretty much saying that you don't have any control over what you do and how you feel, which is crazy, right? Like, that's, nobody has control over how I feel. If I feel angry, at least I can have the control in my own feelings to be able to diffuse that and disarm that in myself. You also need to understand that you have to accept what you can and can't change. You can't change them and what they say and what they do, but you can change the dynamic and that level of open opinions or tactlessness from them or their opinions towards you. You also have the power to make that a win and a positive aspect within that conversation. And you've got to be aware as well that you're actually letting them defeat you. You're actually letting them make you trigger yourself into being defensive or being angry. You are giving them the power when you are getting angry or getting critical of them, or being the same type of person that you're actively trying to get away from with what they're doing to you. And you're also, and this is probably my biggest point, is that you're creating a negative understanding of you in that ripple effect, and you are lowering your standards and expectations around you, because once you show to other people that you can be triggered that easily by negatively reacting, or once you show people around you that you can be baited into an argument, and once you show people around you that you can be pushed and pulled in any which direction just by somebody having a conversation, and it also creates that negative space that anybody that does have valuable and proper, amazing advice for you to be able to personally grow, professionally grow, or be able to retrieve answers for yourself about, what is blocking you and you can't see it, you have then shut down any future interactions for you to be able to go in and get that information. And, we don't need to spend any extra time of our lives pondering and wondering when we could ask somebody next to us or within a friendship group or relationship or work dynamic how we could get, what we need to do that we're not seeing for ourselves. And that's a really, really powerful thing to be aware of, that you are setting the standard lower for yourself in those interactions, that you are still acting and tantruming like a younger version of yourself. It's almost childlike and juvenile, and that people will then feel the power that they can get it as a party trick out of you and to watch you going crazy or watch them break you. And you don't want to be giving that power away to anybody if you can bloody well help it. So what can you do in those situations? So I've come up just really briefly with an acronym that I want you to play out in your head when you feel like somebody is triggering you or you're feeling that emotional response, and that is wait. So the W is obviously wait. Hold off. Just take a moment, exit yourself from the conversation and go to the bathroom. Have 5 minutes to let the initial shock or the initial sting or the initial blow to settle for a moment. Wait. Allow yourself the time to get back to your emotional center. And then A is for assess. Assess what they're saying, why they're saying it, and if what they're saying is actually true, and that is what is triggering you into that place of anger and justification and fear or defensiveness. Assess if actually what they're saying is because you know that's true, because you have already been feeling like that, and they are outwardly acknowledging your own inner turmoil and guilt and stress and expectation. Assess if that's you getting angry because they're actually triggering you, or assess if it was just something that is hurtful or was an attack on you. Then I want you to use the I as initiate. Initiate back into that conversation that you can feel the need to continue it, whether that's being assertive about what your standard is, that you don't appreciate being spoke to like that. Or if in future, if they have any ideas, could they email it? But I want you to initiate assertively and calmly. This is the powerful part. If you go back in there to initiate an argument, you've completely negated the first two steps. But if you can initiate back into that conversation and go in with your power and with your level of standard and what you expect out of that conversation and what you need from that conversation and what they have brought to you in that conversation, then that is the best time to initiate back into it, which leads me to the T in wait, which is thank them. Thank them for, in different circumstances, it can be a different thing. You could thank them for actually bringing that to your attention, and that it is something that you have thought of, and that you are glad that they have been able to approach you and give you that information or give you that feedback or give you that lightning bolt idea of something that you maybe couldn't have seen yourself. When you thank them, you're giving them permission to continue in that positive way, that you can actually handle being given feedback, that you can actually handle that level of criticism and feedback, and that you are going to acknowledge it and you aren't intimidated by getting it either. So you're actually recalibrating that level of respect and that level of what would the word be? The respect, the expectations of yourself personally and your standard in how they do it. And even if they came at you with a negative, belittling comment that you found was really inappropriate, you can thank them for the feedback. However, you are still learning who you are and what you're doing, and that you appreciate and thank them for feeling the need to bring that to your attention, but it won't be information that you're taking on board. So you're still acknowledging them in even their attack, but you are not shaken, you are not scared, and you are not afraid to go forward with that, with what you're doing. So if all else fails and you find yourself in a position where you are feeling the need to negatively react, wait, assess, initiate, and thank. And you can exit yourself or continue into another conversation, but it is not only recalibrating your standards and your expectations, but it is also creating a good dynamic for any future feedback that you might be getting. And I also want to talk about really, really briefly how this will benefit you in the future. And how this changes for you is you will then be self-aware, like we were talking about. You will then be confident that you can't be belittled or shaken or intimidated. You will then give off that impression and that ripple effect to other people that you mean business and you are here and you can listen and you are approachable and that you are controlled in what you're doing. People will respect you by your character in which you hold yourself, not in the good times, but in the times that are uncomfortable and that are hard and that most people would run from and maybe negatively react, but you have been able to go forward in a respectful, kind, and honest manner, which, if you are hearing me, is exactly the traits in the other people that you look up to are displaying in those situations. So if you ever feel the need to react and get angry, remember the 4 stages: wait, assess, initiate, and thank, because that will get you through and create a whole different dynamic with that one person and with the people that are around them, and how people will see you from a third party point of view as well. They will be patting you on the back, saying things like, you handled that incredibly. Or, you know, I can't believe the other person was so abrupt and I thought that you handled that amazing. They will feel the need to come over and thank you for being a good role model. And that is what you want to be doing. And if you can do that, you then start to diminish those other situations and other areas that have been triggering in you, because you are setting the standard and that ripple effect of what your expectations are when being held in conversations and discussions. So I think that's all for the show today, but I just want to do a plug for you so that you can find more information about me, about the radio show, and also about the Spiritualist Online Network. So if you want to head over across to spiritualistonline.com, you can hear my show, other shows. That's got the direct link for the chat room, so you can go into the SOC radio chat room, whether it's me or other radio hosts, with their chats, and be able to actually actively get involved. Like, we as hosts love that interaction and love that level of feedback ourselves, to be able to, you know, that you can hear us, that it's making sense, that if you have any questions or any scenarios or just any input that has kind of gone on. If you want to hear any encores or see when any upcoming shows are coming along, head over to facebook.com/SOC radio. You'll be able to see what has been on, what is coming up. And if you yourself are interested in doing a spot, you can privately message them or send them a message about how you yourself can get on board and talk about other radio spots that even you could, you know, jump on and get involved, because it is a great way to get the message out there and being able to connect with other people. You can also go to, I think it's circleofmediums.com, I think it is, and that's another and that is within the Spiritualist Online Network as well, and you can check that out. If you want to find me or anything about what I do, you can head over to samanthamoir.com, and you can see all my coaching. So I'm going to very shortly, within the next week, I'm changing my coaching packages so you can get, you know, monthly, weekly, and half-yearly coaching sessions, if that's something that you're interested in. If you want to join the social network, you can head over to facebook.com/coach Samantha Moir, and you can also link up with my other social accounts on Instagram and Snapchat from there. So it was lovely to be involved in the radio show today, and I will see you next time. Bye, everyone.
Thanks for listening to Samantha Moir and Hindsight, Insight, Foresight. Join us again next week for more ideas, thoughts and inspirations to guide you in today's busy life for a beautiful, enhanced future, right here on SOC Radio. Spiritualistonline.com. Online since 2002. Teaching all aspects of personal and spiritual development. Free to all with audio video chat rooms, members forums and SOC radio live shows on site. The Spiritualist Online Network and Lyceum, a global oasis for spiritual awareness, development, attainment, imparting knowledge, thoughts, ideas to inspire. One site, linking a whole network of spiritually informative, educational and interactive services, encompassing every faith, path, walk, religion as one.